Imagine you're sitting in a room with 7 other people. A researcher holds up a card with a single line on it, then a second card with 3 lines of obviously different lengths, and asks a simple question. Which of these 3 lines matches the first one? It's not hard. A child could do it. The answer is obvious. It's line B. You can see it from across the room. But there's a catch. You're the last person to answer. And one by one, every single person before you looks at that card and says, with total confidence, line A, line A, line A, all of them. Line A. Now it's your turn. The answer is B. You know it's B. Your eyes are screaming that it's B. But 7 people just calmly said A. So what do? Do you trust your own eyes, or do you go along with the group? This exact situation was set up in a lab in the 1950s, and what people actually did reveals something deeply uncomfortable about the human mind. The man behind it was a psychologist named Solomon Asch. In 1951, he wanted to answer a question that sounds simple, but isn't. How much does social pressure change what we do, even when the truth is staring us in the face? To test it, he designed the setup you just imagined. A group of people looking at lines, judging which ones match. But here's the trick. Only one person in that room was a real test subject. Everyone else was an actor, secretly instructed by Asch. The actors would answer first, and on certain rounds, they were told to all give the same wrong answer, calmly and confidently. The whole experiment was built to create one specific moment. That moment where the real person, the only genuine one in the room, has to choose between what they can clearly see and what everyone around them is saying. And the lines weren't ambiguous. This is the part people always underestimate. These weren't tiny differences you had to squint at. The correct answer was obvious. When Asch tested people alone, with no group pressure at all, they got it right over 99% of the time. It was that easy. So any wrong answer given in the group could only mean one thing. The pressure of the crowd was overriding the evidence of their own eyes. There was no confusion. There was only the choice. Go with the truth or go with the group. So what happened? When the moment came and all the actors gave the wrong answer, about 75% of the real subjects went along with the group at least once. 3 out of 4 people at some point looked at a line, knew the right answer, and said the wrong one out loud just because everyone else did. Let that sink in. The majority of people, faced with a truth they could plainly see, chose to deny it rather than stand alone. Now, it's worth being precise here because this experiment often gets exaggerated. People didn't cave every single time. Across all the rounds, subjects went along with the wrong answer about a third of the time. Most people, in most moments, still told the truth. But that 1 in 3 rate, on a question this easy, is staggering. Because remember, the correct answer was obvious. There was no good reason to get it wrong, except the invisible weight of 7 other voices. But the truly fascinating part isn't the number. It's what was happening inside those people's heads, because afterward Asch interviewed them, and he found they fell into very different groups. Some of them genuinely started to doubt their own eyes. They thought, well, everyone else sees A, so maybe I'm the one who's wrong. Maybe my eyes are tired. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. Their confidence in reality itself began to crack under the pressure. This is the scariest kind of conformity, because the person isn't lying. They've actually convinced themselves the group must be right. But others knew. They knew with total certainty that the answer was B. They could see it, and they said A anyway. Not because they believed it, but because they couldn't bear the thought of being the only one, the odd one out, the person who disagrees with everybody. They chose to be wrong on purpose, just to avoid the discomfort of standing alone. And that second group points to something deep in our wiring, because this instinct, the pull to go along with the group, isn't a flaw or a weakness. It's ancient, and it kept us alive. For almost all of human history, being cast out of your group wasn't embarrassing. It was a death sentence. Alone, a single human couldn't hunt big game, couldn't defend against predators, couldn't survive a hard winter. Your entire life depended on belonging. So evolution wired us to care intensely about what the group thinks and to feel real pain at the idea of being rejected or excluded. Fitting in wasn't about being weak. It was about not dying. That deep gut-level fear of standing alone that the test subjects felt, that's a survival instinct, hundreds of thousands of years old, firing inside a quiet room over something as trivial as a line on a card. But Asch didn't stop there. He kept tweaking the experiment to find out what made conformity stronger or weaker, and what he discovered is the most important part of the whole thing. First, he changed the size of the group. It turned out you didn't need a huge crowd to create the pressure. With just one actor giving the wrong answer, the subject barely budged. With 2, conformity rose. With 3 or 4, it hit almost full strength. But beyond that, adding more people barely mattered. It wasn't the size of the crowd that crushed people. It was just the feeling of a unified group against you. And that feeling kicked in with only a few voices. And then he changed one more thing. And this is the detail that should give you hope. He added a single ally, just one other person in the room who gave the correct answer. One voice out of everyone who looked at the card and said, "Be the truth," out loud. And the moment that happened, conformity collapsed. When the subject had even one partner who agreed with reality, their willingness to go along with the wrong crowd dropped by up to 80%. Suddenly, they found their courage. Suddenly, they could say what they actually saw. One person. That's all it took. Not a majority, not a movement. Just one other human being willing to break the unanimity and say, "No, I see it too. You're not crazy. It really is." Think about what that means for your own life. The Asch experiment isn't really about lines on a card. It's about every meeting where everyone nods along to a bad idea and you stay quiet. Every group where the mood turns cruel and no one speaks up. Every moment you've thought something was wrong but looked around, saw everyone else going along with it, and swallowed your words. That pressure you feel in those moments is real, and it's powerful, and now you know it's been shaping human behavior since long before you were born. But you also know the cure, because if being the lone voice is almost impossible, being the second voice is easy. The single hardest thing is to be the first person to say B when everyone else says A. But once one person says it, everyone who was secretly thinking it feels free to say it too. So the real question the experiment leaves you with isn't just, would you change your answer to fit in? Most of us, honestly, sometimes would. The harder, more important question is this. When you can clearly see the truth and everyone around you is denying it, will you be the one person brave enough to say it out loud first? Because the science is clear. You won't just be saving yourself. You might be the single voice that gives everyone else in the room permission to finally see what was in front of them the whole time.